Welcome back, everybody, to the Podecito podcast. I am your host, The Real 469. Thank you for joining me as we journey episode by episode through our collective favorite show. Of course, I'm talking about the incomparable Las Vegas. This week, we are on episode 14 of season 2. Almost forgot there for a second. The Lie is Cast. This episode aired January 17, 2005. Has an IMDb rating of 7.7 out of 10. That's a C+. Has a Las Vegas the series rating of 4.5 out of 5 chips, which gives it an A-. You can visit lasvegas-theseries.com via the Wayback Machine, by the way. Make sure you go to 2009 or sooner. Those are the ones where you can actually see the real Las Vegas-Series.com site. Visit the Wayback Machine and send them a couple ducats if you can. They are doing the Lord's work. So we got a C+ on IMDb, an A- on Las Vegas, which gives it an aggregate rating of a B, or an 8.35 out of 10. Offhand, I would say that sounds possibly about right or so. Again, I told you, IMDb, all these episodes seem to be rated at about 7 or so. This is one of the higher ones that I've seen that I can recall. This is certainly much higher on Las Vegas than the last episode was, which I thought was underrating the last episode. I don't know that I would give it that high a rating. I think this episode's rating on Las Vegas as a series is a bit high, but we will see. This episode was written by Gardner Stern and directed by Brad Turner. Brad Turner has quite the extensive directorial resume, as they say. His first directorial job was on Airwolf in 1987 for 3 episodes. He did Mom P.I., not to be confused with Magnum P.I. He did 2 episodes of 21 Jump Street alongside the DeLuise Boys, former guest stars, and Holly Robinson, former co-star of our own James LeJour. He did 8 episodes of La Femme Nikita, which is similar-ish, I suppose, to some of the action, at least, scenes and or atmospheres of Las Vegas. He did an episode of Smallville. He did 2 episodes of our beloved Las Vegas. This is his first one. And the next one is coming up a bit later in the season, One Nation Under Surveillance. That's episode 19 of the show. His latest thing, and he did a couple episodes of Bones, which is more, I guess, in keeping with the atmosphere. Psych, same thing. Yada, 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 All right. Yada, 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 Well, we got to do it. Yada, 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 he did 10 episodes of Hawaii Five-0, the Scotty Conn version, yes. And the latest thing you could see that he directed, he did 4 episodes of From. That's a good show. Although, where they're going with this next season, the next season could lose some credibility in terms of quality. This is going to be pivotal for the next season of From. The latest thing he did was 3 episodes of Alert Missing Persons Unit, Scotty Conn show, yes. And he's also got The Institute coming up, 2 episodes of that. That is Brad Turner. We start this episode by whooshing through the Vegas Strip down to the Montecito. Again, what a lovely sight that is. And we come into Mystique. And there is, of course, because it's Mystique, a party going on in Mystique. If you're watching on the original version, we have a musical cue here to start off. If you're watching on the original version, you have the original version? No, I don't have the original version. But if you're watching on the original version, as well as all incarnations, actually, the DVD streaming services, which at this point is just Peacock and Roku, then the song is going to be a song called Move Your Body by Black Toast. It's almost impossible, I think, to find this song. I think we've featured Black Toast on here before, and he was one of the ones where you had to dig in and you had to go to the Wayback Machine to find his website, to find some of the songs. He may or may not have done production music, but he definitely did probably this club music. And I found that the club music seems to be the hardest music to find. I don't know storage facilities, all the apps that or sites that they were using or whatever, they never transferred them to YouTube or any of the other places you could listen like Spotify or anything like that. And maybe they can't get a hold of anything on SoundCloud for some reason. Nothing has access to SoundCloud. So it's hard to track that down. But it is by Black Toast. It's Move Your Body. And I found that information out via Las Vegas-series.com and the Wayback Machine. They had that listed there. So very important, that Wayback Machine and Las Vegas-series. But we see a girl dancing in the cage as people all around are partying. And we whoosh through to see Danny drunkenly chatting up some blonde chick about his love for Choco Chunks. Choco Chunks don't exist. Not a real thing. But the girl that he's chatting up is a real girl. I'm not going to spend too much time on her because we're going to see this character later. Right now, her character is named Lisa. We're going to see her in one more episode. But she does come up, the actress does come up 3 times after that in 3 different roles. So we will see her later on then. But the actress's name is Camille Anderson. And she was a cover girl of a couple of different of those dude mags back in the mid-2000s, FHM Maxim, etc. And she's a former Miss Austin, Texas in 1998. But we'll see her a bit later on in this recurring role of Lisa. But Danny's chatting her up. He's very drunk. She seems very drunk too. And they're talking about their love of Choco Chunks.
You like Choco Chunks? I love Choco Chunks. I'm not kidding you. I've had whole meals of nothing but Choco Chunks.
Me too.
Really? Linda! Hey, baby. You gotta meet my friend Lisa. Lisa, this is my friend Delinda.
Hi.
She likes Choco Chunks.
I am thrilled that you two have so much in common, but I need you focused.
We do.
Danny.
What?
I need you to escort that woman to her room.
No, I'm off duty.
Danny.
No, I'm not working right now.
At least 10 minutes to get here, and I don't want some drunk passed out on my couch.
Why? Here's the first problem with this episode. Why would it take security 10 minutes to get into Mystique? Mystique is on the property. There should be bodyguards there. There should be security or bouncers at least in the front. There should be security there anyway, and especially after Groundhog Summer a season and a half ago. All the problems that can possibly take place in a club that's on property of the Montecito, on the first floor of property on the Montecito. It should not take, and security's on the first floor. Security's on the floor. It should not take security 10 minutes to get into the club. That is, I don't know if that was an ad lib, but it should not take that long. Timing is an issue in this episode too. It should not take 10 minutes for security to come in there and and drag off. And it shouldn't take 10 minutes for the bouncers either. I in a past life and possibly a future life, I was the host of karaoke. And in doing that, there was one instance where there was an extremely drunk girl that was in the bar as we were closing up. And it did not take 10 minutes for the bouncers to escort her out of the bar. And it should not take 10 minutes for them to do that here. Regardless of how many people are in the club, there seems to be enough space for 2 bouncers to be able to at least get her out of the club into a setting where see if she's a guest, and we later find out that she is, and take her up to her room. It should not take that long. But okay, according to Linda, it's going to take that long. She's freaking out about it. Danny's off duty. This is another thing. Keep in mind, he's off duty. He shouldn't be doing this, but Linda's going to ask as a favor to him, and she apparently knows that Danny is apparently drunk. Danny, the one who is chatting up this girl, Lisa, who was hugging all up on him and definitely into him. But Danny's going to go and take this woman up to her room. And I recognize her. I know exactly who this actress is. We'll get into that in a second. Danny says that he's from the Montecito, but he's not on duty. He's going to take her up to her room. And she wakes up and allows Danny to walk her off. As we whoosh through the casino and up the elevator, we see the girl smiling drunkily on her way to her room. And as Danny opens the door, I start the clock. And remember, I say that. Danny is about to let her in, and she drags him into her room. Now, just looking at this room, we see the Sin neon sign, and I believe this is probably the quote-unquote presidential suite that we saw that we saw Ed and Jillian almost christen before Snoop Dogg came in and said, "Mr. D, why are you and Mrs. D doing the big nasty in my suite?" Good answer, but apparently this is that same suite or a replica of that suite. Let's just say, because, hotels have the same room in a couple of different places, right? Because they sell them online. They show this is the type of room. But I don't think it was the presidential suite. So in that case, the room that they were in wasn't the presidential suite. It was just another suite in the hotel. We later find out this is on the 3rd floor, and you can tell that because if you look at the room number, it starts with a 3, which makes sense. The woman drags Danny into the room and starts making out with him rather aggressively.
Okay, you are making this very difficult.
I'm not making it hard.
Oh, Danny. Danny. Horatio McCoy, just the sexiest man in all of the sexiest land known as Las Vegas, even as he's drunk with 2 drunk girls. Lisa thought he was the sexiest man. They're talking about Choco Chunks. What the hell is that cereal? Who knows? They're talking about, or just chocolate chips. Who knows? They're talking about Choco Chunks. And she's enthralled. Why? Because he's the sexiest man in all the sexiest land and the sexiest ville. This woman is brought up to her room. And mind you, obviously the alcohol is playing a part, but she, wakes up to Prince Charming telling her that he's going to take her to her room. And she says, that sounds good to me, and goes up to the room and immediately drags him in and immediately starts making out with him. And oh my goodness. So Danny fights it. He resists it. And he says some other time. He tells her that she should go to bed. But she says that she can't take her dress off by herself. And she needs him to unzip it. Now, I know that dresses very often do have this mechanism where the zip's in the back and it's hard to get on. And I've even seen the trick where you put the wire coat hanger through the little hole in the zipper so that you can zip it up yourself without having assistance to zip it at least. Now, unzipping is a whole nother thing. I don't know how you figure that out. I don't know how she would have figured this out. And I'm not that into women's fashion to know the mechanics of that. One would think that there should be some way of removing the thing with the zipper in the back if you can't reach it to unzip it, like without tearing the zips on it. There has to be some mechanism. Like, there's been too many years and decades of women with clothes with zippers in the back that they may or may not have to take off by them. Getting it on, okay, you got the wire coat hanger trick. I don't think that'll work the same way. So I don't know. There has to be some mechanism. I don't know what it is. She says that there isn't. She asks him to take it off, and this is a clearly she wants to take advantage of Danny. She says to help her because she's feeling a little dizzy. Danny helps her remove the dress, and we pan down to her body. It's amazing. Turn around, and the woman is in her bra, in her underwear, and she goes ahead and she unlatches her bra and stuffs it in Danny's coat pocket as he's trying to resist her advances. And she draws him in again and starts making out with him one more time. But Danny decides to take off, and he leaves, and she is not necessarily enthralled with Danny leaving. I told you I was keeping track of the time, right? And I did. Danny spent a grand total of 1 minute and 18 seconds in that room. Keep that in mind. That's going to be readily apparent and readily important as the episode continues. So Danny drunkenly leaves the room, cheering himself on for leaving the room situation. By the way, as he does that, I forgot to mention this is all production music that's playing after she drags him in to the room on All Incarnations. Danny second thinks whether he should have left or not. He finally resolves that it was a good thing that he left that room instead of staying there with the woman. You can draw your own conclusions on that at this point in the episode, whether you would have or not, whether you would have taken advantage. She was offering the situation. So whether you would have done it or not, you can draw your own conclusions. Danny bumps into a couple as they're walking through the hall, and that's it for Danny. He's entirely too tired, and he decides to pass out in the hall. Luckily, he is spotted by Mike and Mitch, and Mike goes right up to Danny and wakes him up.
Danny. Danny.
Mikey!
Dude, what is going on? You're here sleeping in the third floor corridor. Come on.
I'm not sleeping.
Okay. I get a pretty good idea about what's going on.
I bet she put that in there.
Yeah, she must have done a lot of things. Get up, man. You ought to be more careful. First off, doing a guest is dangerous. And second, I saw you up in surveillance. If Big Ed had seen you.
Nothing happened.
Cool. That's the story we'll go with.
That is the story we'll go with. Remember that exchange. Remember, Danny says there's nothing that happened near the end of that exchange. Mike, at the end of that exchange, says that's the story we'll go with. Remember that. That's also going to be important as we go to the intro. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the best damn intro in the business. I will not be accepting any arguments about that on the Twitter at the Podecito. I will not be accepting arguments about that on any of the other social media. I mean, I guess I can. You can try it. You can try it if you want to. You can argue with me about whether this is the best damn intro in the business if you want to. You can. You can also argue with the streaming services, because the streaming services will often ask you if you want to skip the intro. Go ahead and skip those streaming services. It's okay. Go ahead and skip them, because this is the best damn intro in the business. You don't skip this intro. You don't. You don't. You don't. As we come out of the intro, we see Mike and Danny discussing the events of the day before. Danny is certainly hungover, but he is, he's still on his feet. And Mike asks him if the girl was hot. Again, Mike is still saying, of course nothing happened. Sure, yeah, sure. Tell me if the girl was hot. And Danny points her out and says, you tell me. And we go back to that girl, or to the chick from last night, and we shall talk about the chick from last night right now, because she is a vital, vital part of this episode. The actress's name is Alicia Coppola. No relation to Francis Ford or Nicolas Cage or any of the other Coppolas. She has been around for a while in the acting game. Her first credited role, well, not credited, it was actually uncredited. She was on Saturday Night Live as Dukakis' party guest in 1988 for an episode that's not credited. Her first credited role was Against the Law as Kathleen in 1991 for an episode. She did 128 episodes of Another World as Lorna Devon from 91 to 93. Of course she did. Las Vegas loves its soap stars. She then goes on in 1995 to play Camille in an episode of The Great Defender alongside Peter Krause. Peter Krause, for a lot of people, they first recognize him from 6 Feet Under. And a lot of other people now recognize him from 911. I recognize him from another show. We'll get into that a little bit later, but that's not the last time that they'll be cast members. The next time that they will team up together will actually be in the place where I know Peter Krause from, Sports Night. Great show, underrated show. Love that show. Get the DVDs if you can. Both versions of the DVD, actually, because there's different features on the original version of the DVD versus the new extended version of the DVD. But she plays Lisa spelled Leesa, and there's a whole bit about the way she spells her name, where she actually plays the date of Peter Krause in that episode. And she's very stern in that episode and seems to play those kinds of very stern characters. Her stumbling up to the hotel room drunkenly is the first time I think I've ever seen her on anything with a smile on her face. Now, mind you, I obviously haven't seen all that she's done, but that's the first time that she's seemed more than just the stern person. And she was kind of stern in that episode of Sports Night as well, and again, teaming up with Peter Krause. She then does the Monk to Las Vegas to Monk pipeline, where she plays Michelle Rivas in Monk for an episode in 2004, plays this episode of Las Vegas as Monica Wells the year after. She then goes on to do 2 episodes of Crossing Jordan. Yes, Crossing Jordan. In those 2 episodes, she plays Ryan Kessler and Detective Meredith Mary Stackhouse. So 2 different characters in those episodes of Crossing Jordan. Not Monica Wells here, so not in the same universe, different characters. She then, continuing with the semi-Las Vegas theme, she's in Black Widow, which is a TV movie, as she plays Melanie Dempsey alongside Elizabeth Berkley of Showgirls fame. And she did other things too, but Nomi in the pool, continue with that. The other thing I remember seeing Alicia Coppola in, and I didn't watch this show, but it was on like one of the syndicated reruns like early in the morning, and I caught a little bit of it, and I was like, oh, hey, that's Lisa from Sports Night. Jericho, alongside Skeet Ulrich as Mimi Clark for 25 episodes. She then continues to semi-stalk Peter Krause as she joins Peter Krause, Jennifer Love Hewitt, Angela Bassett in 911 for 3 episodes where she plays Carrie Walsh. The latest thing that you can see her in is Chicago Med as Sloane Hunter for an episode. That is Alicia Coppola. Great actress. Gorgeous, gorgeous body, as you saw in the silhouettes there. Although a lot of the silhouettes, you didn't necessarily see her face. There's a side thing that you could kind of see that I think was her face. I'm wondering if, she didn't want to do some of the body scenes or something like that. But if it was her, terrific, because she looked great in it. We're going to go with that was her in those scenes. And like I said, great actress. I recognize her, of course, from Sports Night. I've seen that a million times. But again, always playing the parts that I knew her from. Always playing the super stern person. She even did 2 episodes of 2.5 Men as a couple different characters. I don't remember her even really laughing on the 2.5 Men set. I remember she was kind of the same kind of stern, super serial character on that show as well. I don't remember the latest episode she was in because I stopped watching by 2013, of course. So we get a lot of that similarly here, and we get to see that extraordinarily on display, harshly on display here, as she berates this poor waitress for bringing her tomato juice that she thinks is in a smaller glass than should be necessary. But rather than understand company policy, bar policy, whatever, that the waitress doesn't pour the drinks, usually, that all those things, without understanding those things, she goes in on this poor waitress here.
That's it?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you ordered tomato juice.
Don't be a smartass. I meant the size of the glass.
Oh, well, if you'd like a different
You
glass...
think a healthy glass of tomato juice is that small? Use your brain if you have one.
Here's the thing. That glass is probably about 8 ounces. Most drinks like that, most juices especially, usually come in the smaller glasses, which usually about 8 ounces. That's probably about it. Yeah, the serving size for stuff like that, probably about 8 ounces. She's out of pocket here. We can tell that she's out of pocket here. And especially, again, the waiters don't pour the drinks like that, generally speaking. They might, or if they do pour them, they're told what size glass to pour some of the drinks in. And she's in Bellicera, so the bartender's probably pouring the drinks anyway. At best, she is told she pours the drink, but in the glass that she is told to pour it in. So a juice, tomato juice, probably poured in the juice glass. They have these glasses that are going, whether you order apple, cranberry, whatever, it's probably going to be in that glass. It's not her call to change it. If you want something bigger, if you want a double, you can order that, and they could do that for you for an extra charge, but that's what it is. Ed overhears this, and he's none too happy with the exchange to his poor waitress here, and he lets the waitress off the hook, introduces himself to our girl Monica here, and tells the waitress Penny to go ahead and get another glass of tomato juice in a larger glass, and to comp the glass of juice. Monica introduces herself and says that she would fire that girl for following instructions. She would fire the girl for doing what's in the wheelhouse of her job. Monica kind of curtly goes into Ed about the quality of service that she's received at Bellicera and in the Montecito in particular, but it's fine. It's protocol. There's nothing actually wrong with it, which is what you're supposed to notice as an audience member and put you against her immediately. Ed walks away, and he's met on the casino floor by Sam and her whale, Mr. Stinson. So Mr. Stinson has a bit of a problem. You see, apparently his 4-year-old daughter is noticing screams and yells from an adjacent room that is disturbing to her in some kind of way. But Ed is telling Mr. Stinson that he's going to figure it out, and coincidentally, Mike just happens to walk by, and Ed's going to give him that assignment. We cut to Mystique, where we hear production music going on in the background. I'm going to assume that's production music going on in the background, and we see this is my favorite. Oh, this is what brings this episode together. As Delinda is sitting in Mystique right next to one of the tablets, going over the numbers. This is what brings the episode together. Why? Because it's the return of... Yes, it's the return of the Fou General, Gunther. You'll love to see it. Welcome back, Gunther. Gunther comes in, all smiles. He is ignoring what Delinda is talking about when it comes to revenues because he wants her to try his new terrine of veal loin and scrod with an Henry sauce. I had to look this up. So terrine, this is going to come up again, is loaf. So basically a meatloaf is what Gunther has here. So as he feeds Delinda and she reassures him that his food is excellent, the thing that she does need to talk to Gunther about is the money. Because unfortunately, the expenses are going up, but the service is not. The intake of revenue is not. And that's because Mystique is the restaurant version, is only open for, and actually the club version, I would imagine too, is only open for dinner. She says that the club stands closed 12 hours a day, and that's a problem. But she wants to open it for lunch. Gunther takes quite huge offense to this. Says fine restaurants do not open for lunch. And he is utterly and totally offended by this thought process of serving lunch. It is beneath Gunther and his sensibilities. It's not beneath Gordon Ramsay and his sensibilities. We, at least not on the Hell's Kitchen version. We see Hell's Kitchen, at least on TV, open for breakfast and lunch, although not really. I'm sure not really. And I'm sure the Hell's Kitchen restaurant, I think the Hell's Kitchen restaurant in Vegas actually is open for lunch. I'd imagine it has to be. It has to be open for lunch too. And dinner. But Gunther is saying fine restaurants don't open for lunch, and he is utterly offended. He's got to make some food for Paul Anka. Paul Anka wants a plum strudel, and he will deliver it to him.
No, do not talk to Gunther about lunch. My good friend, my dear friend Paul Anka has returned, and I must make the special plum strudel for his dressing room. Benito, you can talk to the gypsy boy here about lunch. You see this here? This is not for lunch.
The chemistry that Molly Sims and Harry Grainer have with each other is off the charts. And I think if anything saves this episode, it'll probably be the Delinda, Gunther, Paul Anka B plot. If anything saves this, I think that'll probably be it. Because their chemistry is amazing. I honestly think, looking at this show at this point, Molly Sims' chemistry with Harry Grainer is probably the best chemistry she has with anybody on the show. I think he brings out the best in her. Better chemistry than she had with Josh. I think better chemistry. We haven't seen a whole lot of her and Nessa even though they're supposed to be sisters. I think better than her chemistry with James Caan, although one of the last scene on Catch of the Day, where she was in his office and talking about her junior high boyfriend, that was a good interaction there. But I think on average, her best chemistry at this point in the show with anybody, and she's had good chemistry with other people, but her best chemistry, I think, with anybody on the show, I think, is with Gunther. It's just tremendous. They're back and forth. It works phenomenally. Let's let the dealer shuffle the deck for a second and we'll be right back.
I assume you're interested in large amounts of money. It's Vegas, who isn't?
If you like the podcast and you want to help support it, you can buy me a coffee, send a cash app, or join our coffee, KO-FI, and or Patreon. Just search The Podecito on all those platforms. But we whoosh out of there, and we see Monica at the blackjack table, and speaking of Nessa, she's telling Monica that she can't touch the cards at the blackjack table and house rules, and Monica can't understand why she can't touch the cards. This is very simple. Because you could be marking the cards. And we've seen in previous episodes, remember where Nessa went after the blackjack ring, the ring of cheaters, and the guy came in with the glasses and he was marking the cards with the silicate on it, and so he was cheating and losing at the same time with the infrared glass that you could see the markings on. That's why. That's a readily apparent reason. That's a easily understandable reason why on the blackjack table, at least, you can't touch the cards. You can touch the cards on a poker table because part of the game of poker is hiding what you have from other people on the table. That's not a portion of the game on blackjack or most of the other card games. Most of the other card games are semi-communal. You can see what everybody else has. That's the whole point. It's not hidden, right? And even the ones that are hidden, like Let It Ride was one where some of the cards were hidden. They hide the cards? You could touch the cards there because you could use the cards to scratch it back. And that may be another reason why Let It Ride was phased out of a lot of casinos, because you could actually touch the cards on Let It Ride. But Let It Ride, you could touch the cards because you use the cards to scratch it back, whether you wanted to bring your bet back in or not. And you're playing against the dealer. Yeah, you're playing against the dealer. You're not. Well, yeah, you're only playing against the dealer. Like, even if everybody else is at the table, you're not playing against everybody else. You're playing against the dealer. So, but you can hide your cards. That's almost it's because it's a version of poker, and because it's a version of poker, you get to see your cards, and nobody else necessarily needs to see your cards. You can show them, I suppose, if you want to, but it's more optional. Bottom line here, there's a reason for that here at blackjack. Also, the marking of the cards probably is more effective on a game like blackjack than it would be on a game like poker. At some point, you're going to probably touch basically all the cards. Versus on blackjack, where you can mark the cards that you want to mark. Basically, you would want the face cards to be more marked so you can see where they're coming. I'm not exactly sure the science of marking cards for poker. I'm sure there is a reason to do that. But there's a reason why you can't touch them here. And Miss Wells can't understand that. She says,
For $500 a hand, I should be able to touch a card.
That $500 per hand that she's playing, which is a pretty high limit that she's playing it, which makes sense because she's a CEO of a company, comes to $823 per hand in today's money. That's quite the limit on the table that she's playing at. She's not being the nicest person, and she says that she'll abide by the rules if somebody can explain them to her. Nessa should explain this to her. I'll give her 1 point on this. Nessa, and usually when you're playing at a casino, they will explain something like that to you. They have no problem explaining stuff like that to you, if for no other reason than legally, so they can cover their own bases and their own backs, and for the employees to be able to cover their own backs and let you know what the situation is so that you can keep playing. Because on the floor, at least it used to be this way. I don't know how it's been in the last few years where they're nickel and diming you to death, but at least used to be, they didn't help you necessarily, like help you play cards or whatever, but they gave you pointers. You could do that. They gave you tips. They told you what the rules were, which is you would want them to tell you what the rules are and explain stuff to you. And they would generally, probably in a normal circumstance, explain to you why you can't touch the cards. Because we don't know that you don't have something on your fingers. And you know what I mean? Some people could use that as a cheating device. And because of that, we don't want you to do that. We don't want you to touch the cards. And that would be the reason why they do that. Again, I'll give you another example. The last time I was in Vegas, and I think I've told the story before about I saw this young couple there at the craps table. It was a fairly empty casino floor at that point. They were on their honeymoon and they were playing, and I had tried to get her to blow on the dice. And this is this is just before COVID. Was this just before COVID? This is just before COVID. This is just before COVID. The dealer said that you can't do that. And he explained why. He said, you can't blow the dice. We don't like with these germs. You can't. This is before COVID. And he still said germs on it. And he said, we want you to keep the dice visible at all times to prevent something like that. And that included blowing of the dice, which I hate. But he at least explained it. And that, while I don't agree with that, I wish you could continue to blow on the dice. It was at least explained. There's nothing preventing Nessa or that dealer there from explaining that to Miss Wells before it gets to this point. There's nothing preventing that from happening. And there shouldn't have been anything preventing them explaining that back then. So that is one point for her. She says if you could explain it to her, then she'll abide by the rule. Explain it to her. We don't know that you're not marking the cards. It's not anything personal against you, which is why we do it for it's a overall rule. In any of our blackjack tables, regardless of limit, you don't touch the cards. You can touch anything else. You can touch the chips. You can touch the felt. Don't touch the cards. Simple. In reply to that, Nessa calls for security and gets Big Ed. Big Ed just happens to be there again, and Miss Wells is not happy with having to see Big Ed, and is not happy with the rule either. And Ed tells her that that's the rule, and she's asked again why, and she again gets a flippant answer from Ed where he says,
"That is the rule."
Why?
Most importantly, because I said so. Is that straight enough for you?
No, Ed. Sorry. No, it's not. It's not. It's because you could use that as cheating. That's why. You could just say that. It's because, not even you, it's because players can use that as a cheating device. So in order to prevent that, in order to prevent any of that stuff, the rule is just not touching the cards. At blackjack, if you want to touch the cards, you can play poker because that's part of the game. That's the explanation. She's not even getting that. So Danny comes over and asks if there's anything he can do. Miss Wells sees Danny and she says,
He works for you too?
Yes.
He's as bad as the rest. Worse.
Miss Wells, I think it's time you left the casino.
Screw you.
Thank you. Also, vacate the property.
And with that, Ed kicks her out of the casino.
You're throwing me out?
Yes, yes I am. Greg.
You are making a big mistake.
You are no longer welcome at the Montecito, ever. Greg, would you escort this lady up to her room, have her pack her belongings, then escort her off the property?
Don't touch me.
Ooh.
And so Monica gets 86th from the casino grounds and telling her and Greg is escorting her off the property. And Ed and Nessa seem to think that that's the end of that. Now, here's the other thing. There's other people that are playing at that table. Seeing that, would get up and leave. Because, well, probably. It depends on how the cards have been flowing while she was there. But I would probably get up and leave just because I don't like the vibes. Whether the Montecito is correct in that assessment of the situation or not, and I, again, think that they could have at least explained the rule to her, and then if she wanted to continue to do it, then they go ahead and do what they want to do. But the vibe, who's right, who's wrong, that conflict, that vibe, screws with the vibe that I'm trying to go for in the casino. So at that point, I'd get up and leave and do something else. Maybe go see a show. I may or may not play some more. It's time to get up. I'll go get some lunch and reset the vibe, at least in my head, reset my internal vibe. But that's just me. So that would not only cost them Monica Wells' business, but it at least would cost them mine at the moment. I'd probably come back later, but it would be later. It wouldn't be, I'd probably finish out that hand because the cards are already dealt. But probably that would probably be the end of me at that table at that time. We go to Belisara, and Paul Anka is there. He's finished signing some autographs for some people, and he's about to drink his tea or coffee as we hear production music in the background. One of the things I will say about this, and Delinda comes in to talk to him, is that initially when I was hearing this and trying to track down the music, it sounded like there was static in the background, but it wasn't. The Foley artists, the sound effects people for this episode in particular, every time we're in Belisara, because if you notice behind the bar, there's a cascading waterfall behind the bartender. They turn up the sound on that over. It's not just on any of the streaming services or whatever, which is sometimes something that they could, they try to muffle out whatever music is on there. Maybe they couldn't, which is, if you remember the first John Lovitz episode, they did that in the first part of that scene where I don't know if they couldn't get a copy of the master, and so they just turned up the other music that was playing over it or something. That is initially what I thought, but it's on all incarnations, and it's the same production music all throughout. And then I noticed, because it comes up later in the episode, they do the same in another scene in Belisara. They do the same thing whenever you see the waterfall cascading behind whoever's talking. They brought up the Foley sound effect for the freaking waterfall behind the actors, which, terrible decision on a couple of different instances. First off, it's a little distracting. Secondly, you probably wouldn't hear the waterfall in a place like the Montecito. When it's in a bar like that, you probably wouldn't hear it. You might hear it if you're right next to the bar. Maybe you're the bartender, you might hear it. But even then, you kind of don't want to, because at a certain point, that'll trigger something in people's heads where they'll have to get up and leave. It would probably be more soundless what you would hear. It's fine hearing the waterfall and stuff happen outside. Inside a place like a bar, a place like a casino, you probably wouldn't hear it. It would probably be soundless, or the sound would be a lot lower than muffled somehow with either more rocks, more foliage, a barrier of some kind, probably a barrier of some kind, honestly, because you don't want anything to happen to that water, right? Probably a wall, a plexiglass, something, right? Probably a barrier of some kind. To maybe, because then we get a little steamed up, but at some point there would be something there to keep it from bleeding over into, especially conversations over to the edge of Belisara. You wouldn't hear it that high. So that's a point off, or part of a point at least off, for the Foley art in this one. I noticed it, and you shouldn't. Here's one of the secrets. I think background noise like that is one of those things on a TV show where if you notice, TV show or movie, where you probably shouldn't notice it. If you notice it too much, then probably something's wrong, right? Like you may notice tropes or something like that. If you watch something if you watch certain sitcoms, you could hear the same laughs over and over again, like if you binge watch them. But if you're, for how it's intended to be taken in, you probably shouldn't notice it. And I noticed it. So that's that. But Delinda speaks with Paul Anka, and they go over what Paul has been doing lately and how Paul Anka has a history with Gunther. It turns out Paul Anka invested in Gunther's first place in L.A. And actually that explains why we don't see Gunther more often. Because if that first place in L.A. is still open, Gunther might have different restaurants, at least all over town, maybe all over the way. Maybe he still has the place in L.A. and he spends his time in different locations. But Delinda asked Paul Anka to ask Gunther to increase their revenues by opening Mystique up for lunch and trading on the history that Paul Anka has with Gunther for that. And he says,
well, nothing wrong with lunch. I eat it every day.
Great. Just tell him that.
You got it.
We cut to Monica Wells signing herself out of the Montecito, and Ed is overseeing it, making sure that she leaves. And here is where we see, I think, the first instance of how delicately am I going to handle this? I didn't think we would get to this point this soon, but we are here, and we're going to be here sooner than I thought. Even as a preview of a future episode in this season, the appearance of a Las Vegas cast member changing noticeably, probably not for the better. I didn't think we'd get here this soon, but we're here. Ed in this scene, more specifically, James Caan in this scene, the dye job on Ed, his hair and his eyebrows, is not done well. And this is just from the scene that we saw back before where he was at the table, where it was fine. Here, it's not done well. And it won't be done well in the next episode either. It'll come back to normal the episode after that, but from here through to the next episode, I'm sure they shot in different days. I don't know if the dye that he had was normally that made his hair look more naturally the color that it was versus all gray or whatever. They just didn't have it or what. But here it's apparent that there's an issue with Ed's dye. His makeup also isn't great in this scene either. I don't know if this was a quick thing that they just had to shoot really quickly, but I think later on in the episode you see it also. It's not particularly great. I hate to call out someone like the hairstylist or the makeup artist in this episode, but I did take note that the hairstylist for this episode that's credited is different than the hairstylist that's credited in last episode and in the next episode. So there's some backstage something that is coming to the front stage because Ed's makeup, Ed's hair, and eyebrows do not look good here. And I noticed it. Again, I shouldn't notice it, and I haven't noticed it up until here. And that's why it's a problem, because I noticed it. And there's a lot, especially in entertainment, there's a lot of stuff in entertainment and life. It's just regular life. There's a lot of stuff that you shouldn't notice. And if you notice it, then it's a problem, right? Take, for instance, if you're in your house and you notice the smell of gas, guess what? There's a problem with your gas pipe now. There's a problem with your stove or your heater or something. You shouldn't notice it. If you notice it, then there's a problem. So getting that out of the way, we see Monica Wells tell Ed that she was assaulted by Danny in her room.
Last night, your underling, Danny, I think that's what you called him, forced me to perform a sex act on him, and he groped me.
You're pathetic.
I want a formal apology.
I want world peace.
If you're not interested, I'm sure the police will be.
Greg, let's get her out of here. Let's go.
Ed immediately brushes her off, scoffs her off, says that she's delusional, and we cut to, out of the commercial, Danny in Ed's office telling Ed that it's a complete lie and that nothing happened. Which we know is relatively the truth. I mean, they made out a little bit, but Danny did leave. And Danny has to explain to Ed the situation. She was drunk, starts coming on to Danny that nothing happened after that. He didn't grope her, and he definitely didn't force her to do anything.
She's the CEO of some big construction company. She's probably never been rejected by a hotel or a guy. So to get back at us, she makes up some stupid threat. That's it. Listen, do me a favor and relax. She's probably gonna figure out she made this big mistake, and that's that.
At this point, we do see something come up on IMDb where they talk about the note, or one of the notes that they have here on IMDb, where they say, while no Vegas hotel has camera in the guest rooms, they do have cameras in the halls outside the rooms. This has been shown many times in this series, yet nobody from surveillance thinks to use the video from outside Monica's room to show that Danny was only in there 3 to 4 minutes. He wasn't. He was only in there for a little over 1 minute, actually. Hardly enough time to have, quote-unquote, done anything. Correct. That should be, and we saw that in a not too long ago previous episode where they checked the time, or specifically Mr. Brunson and Mia, and how long she spent in the room with the whale. I very specifically remember that, and them time-lapsing that, and Mitch playing a part in it, and Sam getting Mia busted, and all that stuff. We very specifically did that. Not too long ago, we very specifically did that. it should not be that big a problem to check out that tape. I'm sure it wasn't deleted. I'm sure it would be not that big a problem. Maybe just hidden. Maybe just, just not mentioned to Ed. But there's no not even hidden, just not mentioned to Ed, so he has no reason to check it. But there's they can go ahead and do that and squash this before it goes any further. But the show still has to show. So Mike comes out of the hallway and runs into Sam, and Mike tells Sam that he checked it out. There's an elderly couple next door. There's nothing that he could see. He asked if the little girl just heard them listening to TV or music or something like that. And Sam says, no, the little girl says she didn't make it up. They got to figure out what it is. And so Mike says that he'll set up some audio equipment outside the room just to hear if there's anything that he can hear. So we cut back into Mystique again, and Delinda once again is going over the numbers as we hear production music in the background. Gunther comes back out talking about...
Delinda, I have been inspired for a name for my new terrain. It will be my terrain, the Brandung und der Rasen. My surf und turf terrain. I like this.
That is the correct translation. It is his surf and turf loaf. Gunther is on a loaf kick right now. It is a surf and turf loaf. But okay, he's on a loaf kick right now. In comes Paul Anka, and we see the love and affection that Gunther has for Paul Anka and Paul Anka has for Gunther. It's all smiles until Paul Anka comes in and says,
I'm always performing when you guys are open.
Well, then, so what can we do to please my good friend Paul Anka, huh?
Why don't you start serving lunch? Come on, Gunther, it would be great.
Boy, that giant smile just wiped right off of Gunther's face, didn't it? Paul Anka says...
And you know what you should serve? Burgers.
Burgers.
Burgers. Great idea.
Burgers.
Most people do not know what a funny comedian is my good friend Paul Anka.
I'm serious, Gunther. Think about it. Master Chef Gunther's take on the all-American burger. With your own special twist.
You know, most people would be too surprised by what Gunther would do with this sad little sandwich.
Here's the thing. Sad little sandwich. Gunther is on a meatloaf kick right now. He's on, and I wouldn't have known this if I hadn't looked up what terrine was. He's on a meatloaf kick right now. Burgers are fine. Burgers are a step up from meatloaf. I don't care if it's surf or turf meatloaf. It's still meatloaf. Freaking Gunther. And Paul Anka says that he will sing at the grand opening if Gunther decides that he's going to do lunch. And I think that is one of the things that tips things into the favor of Gunther serving lunch. We are on the roof of the Montecito as it overlooks that skyline, that beautiful, beautiful skyline. Luis meets up with Danny before Danny gets into his car and takes off, and tells Danny that Monica Wells came to the police station to talk about Danny, quote unquote, assaulting her in his room, and she's putting out a complaint on Danny. And as soon as she did that, the police have to investigate it. Someone will be coming over to get a statement.
Someone will be coming over to get your statement, so if you need some time to prepare.
Prepare for what? Huh? You prepare when you need to make up an alibi. I didn't do anything.
No, Danny. If you can prepare, you prepare at all times. It doesn't matter if you did anything or not. You prepare because guess what? Daniel? Whether you did something or not, very often, not only legally, but in a lot of different kinds of environments, work, relationships, doesn't matter. Perception. You live in Vegas. You should know this. Vegas is all about perception over anything else. Vegas is all about the glitz and the glamour and the show and the facade over everything else. Whether you actually did something or not, very often isn't the point. Sometimes it is. Very often it is. But sometimes it's not. And in order to get to the point where it does become paramount to the event, you have to do things a certain way so that you're believed more. There's a whole process, depending on what the situation is, that you very often have to go through. It sucks. Trust me. But very often that is the case. And Danny should know this. Luis is telling him to go ahead and prepare, but he got the heads up from Luis, and Danny, in the first semi-wise thing he's done, doesn't leave yet. He goes back into the Montecito, and good for him. By the way, the elevator says it's on the 5th floor. The Montecito's only 5 floors high? Maybe the parking lot's only 5 floors high? That's interesting. But at least, that's interesting. It can't be only 5. It cannot be. Have you seen that huge structure? It can only be 5. Anyway. Danny comes back in to the office and tells Ed that Monica Wells filed a report. And now Danny has to reveal to Ed everything that happened, including that Danny was drunk as well. And that he passed out in the hall. And you can see Ed get agitated as he hears this news. The very first thing you see is him tapping the desk with his finger once, and he stands up to get some distance between him and Danny. And Ed is processing the information that he's got.
So you got drunk, and you escorted a guest, a woman, to her room. Do you know how stupid that is?
Delinda asked me to take her up
then
to the...
Delinda is stupid. You do not get drunk on hotel property. You do not fall asleep or pass out in a hallway. You're head of security. Listen, if you want to get drunk, go downtown to some joint with the rest of them punks or a strip club where somebody can't see you.
Ed, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know you are.
So again, we come back to the thought process that Danny should know better. He's not, remember, the first episode, you're not part of the Cabana Boys. You're in security and surveillance. He's now head of security and surveillance, while Ed is the president of operations. And remember, Ed had that conversation with Danny in the car where they were on that stakeout for, I forget which guy it was, but they were on a stakeout and asking Danny where he is, where his head is, because Ed wanted to make sure that Danny was smart enough to handle the position right. Apparently there's a setback there. So Ed sends Danny to go see the Montecito lawyer because it involves a Montecito employee. Danny is all verklempt. He is taken aback, as one would be in a situation like this. Again, trust me, whether the situation is this, something having to do with a sexual complaint or any other kind of complaint at your job, it's a rough situation to be in. And Ed calls for Mike to come in, and he has Mike do some recon work for him because he wants a little bit of information on Monica Wells on his end before they do too much moving forward.
I need you to do a background check on this broad I tossed out of here this morning, Monica Wells. She's a real pain in the ass.
Anything specific you're looking for?
Yeah, leverage. You know what I'm talking about.
I got you.
So we come back from commercial and we see Danny come downstairs passing Mike in the elevator bay, and Mike is about to go up and check on the mysterious screams, but Mike and Danny now talk about the situation where Mike ran into Danny in the hallway and he was passed out. And this is the first Mike is hearing about the complaint coming forward. Danny tells Mike to just tell the truth.
Well, what did you say?
I haven't talked to him.
Because I don't need to mention it, bro. You don't even see it on the surveillance footage.
When you found me in the hallway the other night, did I mention anything to you about anything that I might have done?
No.
Because I'm pretty sure that nothing happened. I'm almost certain.
Listen,
almost.
When I got there, first thing you said, nothing happened.
That's not the first thing Danny said. That was one of the last things that Danny said before we cut to the intro. That's not the first thing that Danny said. Just keep that in mind. And remember, Mike at that point didn't truly believe Danny. So remember that. He thought that there might have been some shenanigans taking place. But again, also remember, Danny was in the room for a little over a minute. At most, what could have happened was a proposition and a rejection. no kind of actual act in that time frame. So if you want to have a case, you could say Danny might have said something in there, but that's the most. That's the most you could possibly come up with in over a minute, a little over a minute, regardless of anybody's skills or anybody's tenacity. That's the most you could possibly say. But all right, the Wagons are circling around Danny, starting with Mike here, who immediately comes to Danny's side and says,
"This is BS, Danny."
We cut to Mystique again, and we see the HB product placement as Delinda is on the tablets, and we see the waitresses with blank tablets. She's not doing anything on that tablet, by the way. Now, the tablet does have the menu items on it. You can kind of see that's what's on there. And by the way, I didn't even know that tablets were around this early. But yeah, you can kind of see it's Mystique, and you can see it's basically a tablet. And we've seen these before. We've seen Delinda on these before. But this is definitely product placement, as if you go to the end credits, it says HB is sponsored, and also the monitors in surveillance are Hewlett-Packard. So Danny comes into Mystique as we hear production music playing in the background, which is similar in tone, if you ask me, to the original Bernie Mac theme song. So Danny asks Delinda if she saw how many drinks that Monica Wells had in Mystique, but Delinda says she didn't know how many drinks, but she was obviously plastered. And then Danny tells her about the situation with the complaint coming down. And Delinda also comes to Danny's aid.
Of course you didn't. In her dreams you touched her.
So Danny clues Delinda in on the situation that Monica Wells put out the complaint against him. And Danny really is trying to gather up as much information from witnesses as possible to go into the circumstances. And Delinda, again, wagon circling around Danny, says,
So you'll vouch for the fact that she was drunk off her ass?
Of course, of course.
Thank you.
Don't worry.
Okay, thank you.
Bitch.
So it's interesting us seeing this. This is one of those instances where I think the time frame of us watching this in 2025 makes it a little bit different than 2005, but not really. I think there is some tide turning on that front even now as well, where you're thinking about an he said, she said situation. Now, we saw the situation. We come from a place where we know that Danny didn't even initiate any of the kisses. She kissed him. She drug him into the room, which you could probably see on the camera. She initiated all the kisses, which you won't be able to see on the camera, and that Danny left. And the time frame in which he left, you could see all that from our vantage point. Half of that you can't see what's inside from their vantage point. But the idea in 2025 of automatically believing either person from the party is a touchy one, very specifically because it's a he said, she said. Otherwise, the show also does bring Monica into a less than favorable light as soon as we see her outside of that night's events. From here on out, she's figured in not favorably. So it's, how do you want to ingest this episode, I guess, is the big question that we're going to wrestle with throughout the remainder of the episode. And we've got to keep going.
Why don't you take a little break? Yeah, that's a good idea. You're gonna stretch the legs, wash the face, refocus. There you go.
You're listening to For My Ebony by Anthony Njoku. If you like what you're hearing, want to hear it again or hear more, go to tinyurl.com/ANJoku. That's tinyurl.com/ANJOKU. We cut to surveillance, and Mike is setting up some sort of equipment, and Sam walks in and asks about the noises coming from the 4th floor, and Mike says he's got something set up where he could see if there's anything on the display from the human spectrum of noise. And Mike is taken aback by what he hears.
What?
This can't be. Sam, listen to this. Tell me that's not what I think it is.
Ooh. It's a high decibel rendition of Hide the Salami.
This couple's like 70 years old.
So it's Hide the Age Salami.
It is kind of disturbing.
No, I think it's great. More power to him.
Well, the problem is we can't tell married folks not to have sex, and the stencils won't move.
So move the old couple.
That's a good idea.
That's a great idea, actually. That is, in fact, the idea to go with. And so Mike and Sam argue a little bit about who's going to talk to the old couple about moving, but it goes into Sam's favor. She's going to be the one to ask. I like the exchange between them to Hide the Age Salami. That's a quick comeback from Sam. We then whoosh into Mystique, and we get probably the best rendition of this song ever. We see Paul Anka as he and his band are set up, or at least part of his band are set up, as everyone else is sitting in Mystique, and we get to hear his rendition of Having My Burger.
What a lovely way of dressing up a ground meat patty. Having my burger. A one bite, one taste, and I'm suddenly feeling so happy. They didn't fry it or bake it slow. They grilled that meat with good mesquite and cooked it just so. I'm thinking, you know, having my burger. What a lovely way of dressing up a ground meat patty. Having my burger.
That is quite the debut for Gunther's Burger. I liked the whole point with Paul Anka reaching for the rafters as he's singing, but as he's doing it in the picture, in the ad for it, he's holding up a freaking burger. That's tremendous. And Gunther's dancing is great, and everyone enjoying the moment is fantastic. With that, it's sure to be a rousing success. Mystique opening up for lunch and Gunther's Burgers. I'm sure nothing bad will happen there. So we see Ed and Danny and the company lawyer in Ed's office. This is the debut of Ricky Kleeman as Kathy Burson, the Montecito's in-house legal counsel. She will be in a number of episodes after this, but this is the first appearance that we see of her. And we see Danny explaining the situation, but Kathy pushing back on him just a little bit to kind of see exactly where his stance is. But she tells him it's a classic he said, she says.
No, I'm not giving this woman a dime, okay? I'll go to trial if I have to. Besides, she's some corporate honcho anyway. I mean, I don't see her doing this for the money.
Any idea as to why she is doing it?
I don't know. That's the thing. Maybe she's trying to make a boyfriend jealous. Maybe she's just a vindictive bitch.
And that right there. So that is part of the thing. In these circumstances, it's very easy to get upset. I believe and stay upset and to lash out. I understand that wholeheartedly. Saying stuff like that is where you would get in trouble, Danny. Even to your in-house counsel, you can see the look on her face. It's not the corporate example that you would want for a situation like that. There are things you are supposed to say, things you're supposed to do. That's not one of the things you're supposed to say or do. So Kathy tells Danny that it's going to be okay. Danny says that he doesn't want to go in there with a lawyer because it's going to look like he's guilty. She says it's going to look like you know your rights, which is correct. If you have access to a lawyer, if you can get access to a lawyer in circumstances like this, and you can afford it, or they are willing to work on a contingency or whatever, do it. Do it. It is better for you to do that than to not in these circumstances. Danny goes off to think about the circumstances, and Ed and Kathy sit and talk about what exactly is happening, but that the DA will probably file charges against Danny. We then whoosh back onto the floor, and we see Ed and Mike talking about Monica Wells and the situation, and Mike has actually put two and two together that she is the woman that's putting this complaint out against Danny. And Ed says,
Mike, I just want information. I'm not asking you, nor would I ever ask you to do anything illegal or unethical, okay?
Well, we've been some rules here at the Montecito surveillance team, haven't we? We certainly have. So, sure. Okay, Ed. Okay, but Mike again does put the pieces together, and he says that he'd do anything to get information on her if it'll get Danny off. If we can figure out that Danny didn't do it. As Mike goes off to look up more information, Ed is met with a message. We don't see a name on it, but the message reads, "I will discuss settlement 2 p.m. tomorrow, Sunrise Park." Sunrise Park is a real park in Las Vegas, not the one that they're in, though. But we'll come to that when we come to that. Sam comes up to the 70-year-old couple, the Sokols, and gives them a free upgrade.
You know, we have a special program here at the Montecito. It's called the Surprise Upgrade. Surprise! Basically, what we do is we select guests at random, and we offer them a free upgrade to a suite. And dinner for two at Mystique.
Wonderful.
Remember that wonderful. You're going to hear that a lot. The Sokols you're actually going to come across a few times in this episode, too, so we might as well talk about them while we have the chance. Mr. Sokol is played by Warren Munson. Warren Munson has a long IMDb history. We're not going to go over everything, but his very first credited role was in The Farmer's Daughter as MC in 1966. He also did an episode of the original SWAT, not to be confused with the new SWAT, that starred one of our former guest stars here in Las Vegas. He did 2 episodes of Knots Landing in 1984 and 85 as Walt Clifton. Why? Because Las Vegas loves its soap stars. He also did an episode of Too Close for Comfort in 84 as Father O'Grady. I bring that up again because you could watch that on Peacock if you would like. He did 3 episodes of Falcon Crest as Frank Schrader and Mr. Glasser. I bring that up because Las Vegas loves its soap stars. Continuing on that trend, he did 2 episodes of Dallas as Judge Stanley Thurlow. He did 3 episodes of... That was Dynasty, excuse me. He did 3 episodes of Dallas as Richard Baker and the Judge. He then does a lot of other things in the meantime, but he also does an episode, or a few episodes of Port Charles. Matter of fact, I think he's on there the whole time. As Dr. Richard London, again, Las Vegas loves its soap stars. He then, just before Port Charles ended, does an episode as the Proctor in 2002 of...
Ladies and gentlemen, the pride of Las Vegas, the Golden Cop Dancers.
Nikki with Nikki Cox. That's right, our very own lovely Mary McDonald, Nikki Cox. He does an episode with her as the Proctor. Fast forward a couple years, and the latest thing you can see him in is actually this episode of Las Vegas as Mr. Sokol. That's Warren Munson. Warren's lovely wife is played by the even lovelier Francine York. Francine's first credited appearance was in something called Rescue 8 as a receptionist in 1959. She then does 2 episodes of Batman, the original 66 series, as Lydia Limpet. She then does an episode of Lost in Space as Neolani alongside former Las Vegas guest star June Lockhart, a.k.a. Big Ed's mom, Bette DeLine. She then does an episode of I Dream of Jeannie. Not long after that, she does an episode of Bewitched. So she crossed over on that occasion to the other side, I suppose, of that universe. I will note that she did play Venus in that episode of Bewitched, which makes sense. She was a doll back in the day. She did 3 episodes of Love American Style, which I think is another show that is similar in vein to Las Vegas. Although Love American Style was an anthology series. It wasn't a series. It was an anthology, but it had similar themes that you often see in Las Vegas, especially with the romance and the relationships and the shipping and stuff like that. And it had the same similar vibe of new characters coming in on a regular basis. While not quite exactly the same as with a Love Boat, it's similar-ishness. It's in a similar-ish genre. She did 2 episodes of General Hospital as Thelma. Why? Because Las Vegas loves its soap stars. Before doing that, she did 18 episodes of Days of Our Lives as Lorraine Farr Temple. Again, why? Because Las Vegas loves its soap stars. Fast forward to 93, she does an episode of Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman, alongside future recurring character Dean Cain, a recurring actor Dean Cain. She then does an episode of Beverly Hills 90210, yes, as Wedding Chapel employee. She does a movie called The Big Tease with Craig Ferguson as Elegant Woman in 99. That's interesting because I do like me some Craig Ferguson, so that's an interesting thing to possibly check out. She does this episode of Las Vegas in 2005, and then the latest thing that you could see her in is Two Violent Women Part 2 in 2017 as Gloria. Miss York was a beauty pageant queen contestant at 17. She won Miss Eveleth beauty pageant and became runner-up in Miss Minnesota. And she later entered the Miss San Francisco beauty pageant, became runner-up, but ended up taking the title from the winner who became too sick to participate in that. That led to modeling work for her. The modeling work then led to her acting. She actually got the acting bug early. At age 9, she went out for Cinderella, but ended up playing Griselda, one of the wicked people in Cinderella's life. And she decided she was going to steal the show from being the evil stepsister, and she did. And right after that, she ran to the audience and told her mother she wanted to be an actress. And there you go. She said her favorite role was playing in Days of Our Lives, a soap opera actress, as a high-class prostitute and blackmailer. And she had a couple of different trademarks. Her blonde hair, platinum blonde hair, which at this point looks more gray, obviously, and a seductive deep voice. But here we don't hear a deep voice from Francine. We hear more of just, very upbeat and seemingly one note, but we're going to get another note on that voice a little bit later. So as Sam is talking to the Sokos about moving their room and having a bellman move their stuff for them and stuff, we can see in the background a sign for the blackjack tournament playing in one of the video kiosk advertisements, kind of signposts behind them. Remember the blackjack tournament from last season, the one where Nessa went and infiltrated the professor's gang? It's back apparently this year, or at least was back. I don't know how current that sign is. There's no date on it. But $10 million is the blackjack tournament, and today's money would equal $16,460,061.44, which is wonderful. But they are going to agree to move rooms.
Sounds good to me.
Wonderful. Can't really beat that.
So as we come back from that magical moment, did you hear it, by the way? You see the Montecito workers tearing down the sign advertising the gala opening of the Gunther Burger and the Paul Anka performance, which we get a better view of that sign. And you see one thing in particular, a couple different things. You get to see him holding up the burger in the light and how ridiculous that whole sign looks. Sometimes some of these things make me wonder exactly how much of a genius Delinda is with some of the signage and stuff that we've seen for Mystique. But that's cheesy. That's so bad. That's so cheesy and great. What a detail to point out. Another detail to point out is that this apparently takes place on a Saturday, or at least it did take place on a Saturday, January 15th at 1 p.m. What a spectacular day for an opening gala. No notes on the date. Best day of the entire year, in my opinion. And mine, in this instance, is the only one that counts. But as we see the workers tearing it down. Delinda comes out, and we can see over her shoulder that Mystique is still relatively empty. There's only a couple people in there, despite all the tables set up. And she asked the workers if they would like to come in for free Gunther burgers. And the worker says,
Oh, good.
Hey guys, have you tried our Gunther burger? It's on the house.
Had one yesterday. I think we're gonna head over to the food court.
Enjoy the food court.
And people are leaving past Delinda as she walks out, and Gunther is just looking at the disaster in front of him, people leaving fully untouched burger. Now, mind you, these look untouched. Like, they look like they haven't been bitten into at all. That's one of the other things. They look like they haven't been bitten into at all. They're fresh burgers that are just sitting there at the table, which is making me wonder if you didn't even taste it? You didn't even bother to try to take, you should, like, if you didn't hear anything about it and you have the burger in front of you, like, what is so does it smell just horrendous too? Why are you not even bothering to taste it? But it seems like he put the burger on a panini bread roll or a panini press. It looks like some different kind of roll that you would see on a sandwich that you would get at like a Starbucks for panini bread. But he is there in an empty Mystique. We get a musical cue here. If you're watching on the original or the DVD, the song is One Against the Sun by DeLovely. D''Lovely. Good song. I like it. If you're watching on the streaming services, Peacock or Roku, the song is called Pull You Under by Extreme Music, which is fine for a background song. Delinda is trying to tell Gunther that there would be a little drop off with lunch business, but there's a little bit of time to grow. Now, I'm wondering when this is, because we saw them get rid of the signs for the grand opening, which was the Saturday, I'm guessing before. I'm guessing it's not for the same day, right? Maybe Sunday. It might be Sunday. Maybe it's Monday. Maybe I don't know that we've gone that far, and they probably wouldn't keep the sign up with the Paul Anka showing that, 2 days is stretching it a little bit. Maybe they did if they're not open on Sunday, but they probably are open on Sunday. So I'm not exactly sure when the timeline is for this. Although we can tell that the timeline for this episode is within the week that the episode airs, which is good. I do like that little detail. But Delinda is trying to console Gunther, and Gunther is telling her,
yeah, my reputation will fall like a nicht gebaden soufflé.
What his translation is not bathed souffle or dirty souffle, or probably a TV-friendly way of saying an effing souffle. Delinda replies with,
You seem to be using a lot more German these days.
Yeah, well, that's because you make me all so übergeschnappt.
Which is German for crazy. And here we see Mary, lovely Mary. Oh, one of my favorite queens of the Montecito, lovely Mary. She comes in to try one of the Gunther burgers. And Delinda asks,
Are you doing this as a favor to me, or did you hear they were good?
Yeah, favor to you.
Okay, great. Enjoy.
And we see Mary walk off with the burger that was already on the table. So I'm guessing cold, probably. She doesn't even get a fresh Gunther burger. She gets a cold one. She gets a cold Gunther burger and walks off. And that's the last we see of Mary in this episode. Forget that Danny is in trouble. That's the last we get to see of Mary in this episode. Boy, oh boy. Again, we're another episode. I know you can't always have everybody play giant roles all the time, and last episode was a great example where they could, but you can't necessarily do that here. Fine. Paul Anka comes in and he tells Delinda about what he's heard about these burgers too, and how they're not very good either.
I tasted one of your burgers.
Yeah.
I'm afraid you're gonna lose more customers than you win with those things. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
No, it's not just you. That bad, huh?
Inedible.
Here's another question I have. No tasting beforehand? At all? None? Not even with the kitchen staff? Because they gotta prepare it. You are supposed to. I have a friend who is a world-class chef. You taste everything before you send it out. No one tasted this? No one? Did he make the burgers out of what he decided would be one of his loaves? Because the burgers are huge. There's a lot of meat in that burger. Nobody tasted it? No one tasted it at all? No one tasted it before then? The gypsy boy didn't taste it before? No one? Normally in a restaurant, you would have, first off, there's a couple of first offs. So the burger shouldn't be the only thing you serve at lunch. That's another thing. It can't only be, even Five Guys serves hot dogs. It can't only be the burger. You can't only do the burger in a fine restaurant. You have to, a salad, something, because not everybody's going to eat burgers. A chicken of some kind and a burger of some kind for the meat eaters. Maybe if you want to get fancy, you put a seafood in there. Seafood scampi or something. Right? You at least should have more than just the burger for lunch. Smaller portions, something other than just the burger for lunch. Maybe a pasta if you want to get super. Maybe you do one of your stupid meatloafs that Gunther was. Or maybe you use lunch to try out what you do for the dinner service. But only burgers, no one tasting it beforehand. There were, again, backstops before we get here. There were things that should have happened before we got here. There are fail-safes that should have happened before we got to this point. That are there for this very reason. Tasting it, having other people taste it to confirm or deny. Having other items on the menu, so even if the burgers don't take off, you see the chicken is taking off, you see the pasta's taking off, you see the salad's taking off. Other options than just the burger and fries, but they put the whole kit and caboodle on the Gunther burger and very quickly got a bad reputation for the Gunther burger. So we move on to Danny at the precinct with Kathy, and going over, getting questioned about the situation with Monica Wells, and and Danny almost immediately sends Kathy out of the room for the questioning, which is a terrible idea. And Kathy lets him know that.
Detective, my client and I arrived here separately, and I was just wondering if we could take a minute to
I don't need a
discuss.
minute. In fact, I think I should do this alone.
Danny.
Leave. Leave.
This is a mistake.
It is a mistake. Something like that, if you have the option for a lawyer, you check with your lawyer at all times. So we go in and we see that that Ed is in the park with Monica Wells.
You don't mind if I check you for a wire, do you?
Yes, I do. Take a hike, muscles.
So this is obviously the day after. So this is Sunday. This is just Sunday then. So in less than 24 hours, the Gunther Burger's reputation has gotten so bad that no one in Las Vegas will eat it. Not even people who didn't hear anything about it will come in and eat it. That's terrible. So we're here at Sunrise Park, and I mentioned the Sunrise Park is not exactly the place where they're at. So the playground behind them, if you go to Google Maps, you'll see that there is one like that. But the Sunrise Park I was able to find in Las Vegas is much smaller. It's like a small cul-de-sac park. There are no benches, certainly no spatial views of the Las Vegas skyline, which they CGI'd in there. So I'm not sure which park they're in, probably somewhere in LA. But they at least had the courtesy to CGI the skyline, the Vegas Strip in the background here. But as we're here in the park, Monica and Ed talk about the business expertise and connections that Ed has. Monica comes in and talks to Ed and says that she doesn't want money, she wants justice. Oh, okay.
I don't want money. I want justice. And when I called my company to tell them that I might have to stay here to seek that justice, well, I learned something very interesting. Something that could benefit both of us.
You learned that filing false charges was a crime? I don't see how that benefits me.
I was told that you have an influential relationship with the Malaysian government. Actually, I was told you have influential relationships all over the world.
Who told you that?
Now, you're not the only ex-CIA spook working for a major corporation. Here's my proposal. You help us get approval for several projects in Kuala Lumpur, and my complaint against Danny McCoy goes away.
This is an interesting take that Monica has here with Ed. I'm not sure why she didn't think about this beforehand. She was just upset with what was going on in the casino. And by the way, has she also never been in a casino? So she didn't know any of this stuff going in. Is this her first time in any casino anywhere all over the world? So the rules of the Montecito seemed entirely foreign to her. That's odd as well. But she's trying to leverage forcefully Ed's connections to make the Danny situation go away. The Danny situation that shouldn't happen in the first place because there really isn't anything to the quote-unquote Danny situation. So Ed tells her in no uncertain terms, no.
Do we have a deal?
Not if you drag my naked body over broken glass. You watch out, sweetheart. We're gonna start getting serious.
And we see the skyline as Ed walks away. Again, that's a nice touch. I'm glad that they put that in there. Mike comes into Ed's office, said that he couldn't find anything on Monica Wells, but Ed tells him that it's going to be okay. They'll figure something else out.
No. There's plenty we can do. I'm not saying, breaking the law, so we can bend it a little bit.
Of course you can. I've seen you do it. Of course you can. So Ed, off of that, calls in a favor. Hold on a second. Let's get a new deck in here, and we'll be right back.
Okay, I'm your amigo. Okay, I'm your amiga. Let's dance the night away until our bodies got fever.
You're listening to Bundeswing by 1989 TRE. If you like what you're hearing and you want to hear more, hear it again, or both, just go to Spotify and search 1989 TRE, all one word. That's 1989, the letters TRE.
More drinks, tequila, more memories needed. We're gonna live in the moment, como esta noche para siempre. My life is crazy, just like a movie scene. I've been so many places and seen beautiful things, but my mind is captured by this beautiful queen whose dances got me.
As Mike is heading out, he's confronted with one of the maids who asks Mr. Cannon to investigate some loud noises that she heard from her floor. Mike immediately knows what it is.
Mr. Cannon.
Hey, Carmela, what's up?
Maybe it's nothing, but one of the suites on my floor, I think they might have some wild animal inside. You should hear the sounds.
Can I stop you for a moment? Sam, what's the Sokol's new room number?
There were other complaints. I know the other guests heard it. One of them told me I was scaring her.
Yeah, it's not a wild animal, Carmela. It's old people making love.
It's old people making love, he says. That's great. But then we hear...
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. It's just old folks fornicating.
That may very well be the line of the episode. In my opinion, that's the line of the episode right there. It's just old people fornicating as old folks fornicating. That's even with the slight alliteration in there. I like it. I like it a lot. Danny is in Ed's office, and they're going over what the situation right now looks like. And Danny is pretty in the dark about what Ed is doing behind the scenes to look into the situation. We hear that Luis removed himself from the case because he's too close to Danny, obviously. And Danny is fidgety. He's off kilter. He doesn't know how to handle this. He's actually semi back to the kind of nervous state that we've seen him in earlier episodes of the series as a whole. And he comes back with something like,
I think that we should hit back, deal with this thing the Vegas way, the old Vegas way.
I think that's a bad idea.
Come on, Ed. If this were you, you wouldn't be sitting around waiting for the cops to make up their minds. You would be doing something. I think that we should run a background check.
I already did. She's clean.
So far, which, of course, probably makes her a bit more dangerous. And Ed gets a phone call, and we hear that they are, in fact, filing charges on Danny. And Danny will be coming in to turn himself in. As Danny takes off, Ed picks up the phone call, and he calls in the plan that he at least was thinking about setting in motion while talking with Monica in the park. As he does, we cut back to Belisara. And remember what I was talking about with the waterfall effect in the background? It comes up here again as Mike talks to the Sokols. As he does, we hear a song that I thought was just a production song, but I was able to find it last minute. It's a song called Someone to Love, parentheses, as heard in Cradle to the Grave, but we hear it here. Forget Cradle to the Grave. We hear it here. By Daniel May. And that's the song that we hear in the background here as Mike is talking to the Sokals, who are in Belisara and enjoying their time there and a couple of drinks. As they are, though, watch this scene and watch Mr. Sokol's hand. Mr. Sokol's hand, halfway into this scene, or in the first half of the scene, is very strategically placed to right on top of right cupping onto not caressing, but definitely holding up. He's definitely he's his hand is where his hand is. It's his yes. And no one mentions it, and it's not brought up. Mike isn't talking about it. No one mentions it at all. Somebody had to have thought about it. Mrs. Sokol isn't saying anything about it. She's just smiling. She's just grinning her grin as it happens, and she says, wonderful.
I understand my colleague Sam Marquez upgraded you to a suite.
Yes, it's spectacular.
Wonderful.
And so is she.
Wonderful.
Well, she speaks very highly of you as well. In fact, our mansion just opened up, and well, you guys seem like such nice folks. We thought we should move you over there.
A mansion?
Yeah, most people don't even know we have it. It's at the back of the property. It's an actual freestanding mansion, totally isolated from the other guest rooms.
That's not necessary. The suite is more than enough.
So in that conversation, after the mansion is brought up, somebody must have said something or saw something, because Mr. Sokol's arm is then pulled back and on Mrs. Sokol's shoulder. A lot more TV-friendly placement. And this is on all incarnations of the show, by the way. This is everywhere. It's not like in the last episode where one of the lines was a DVD-only line. No. On all incarnations, Mr. Sokol is basically pawing, or at least holding, Mrs. Sokol in a biblical way right out in the open for half of this conversation. So Mike is telling them that he wants to transfer them over to the mansion, and as he walks away and says that the bellman will pick up their things, Mr. Sokol moves over and steps to the side and talks to Mike and asks about anybody complaining about the Sokols.
Complaints?
I've just started taking these, and a combination of a kick in the pants for me and being here in Vegas has pretty much turned Susie into a wild animal. What do you think, honey?
Wonderful.
Every time, screaming like a banshee. I just thought maybe some of the other guests might have complained.
No complaints.
So Mike is just lying to Mr. Sokol to make him feel better. Mr. Sokol tells him about and shows him the Stiff Ease is the capsules that he's using. The medical lineage and verbiage underneath it, all that stuff is legit. I haven't been able to find anything about Stiff Ease spelled that way. Now, that doesn't mean it didn't exist in 2005. There's certainly some stuff that did exist in 2005 of all kinds that it's hard to find nowadays. I remember trying to look up my favorite pre-workout from not even that long ago, I don't think, and can't find it anymore just because they don't manufacture that one anymore. But the medical term underneath it, the citrate that's underneath there and stuff, depending on which version you're able to find that's clear enough, which is actually Peacock, is real and does exist. But Mr. Sokol asks Mike if he wants to try it.
I know you don't need him, but a guy your age, your girlfriend will be able to do chin-ups on your schwanz.
I appreciate your offer, but I am cool.
He is cool. He's the coolest guy in Vegas, actually. Mike probably doesn't need those. That's not going to be the last time anybody asks him that, though. We'll get to that when we get to that. But Mr. Sokol goes back to his wonderful wife, and again, she is just reaching out her hand and grabbing him. We then come back into Mystique, and again, it is barely anybody in there. Waitresses are just standing by with nothing to do, as only a couple people are in there, and the few people that are in there seem to be sort of picking at their meal and picking at the burger. But again, why is that the only thing on the menu? You have a whole menu there. We saw Delinda with the menu as Danny was walking in, looking it over. There should be more than just the burger on the... Even if you just end up with a stack of burgers in there, you should be able to eat more than just the burger. But okay, the episode has to episode. And we hear production music in the background on all incarnations. It's the exact same production music. And Gunther is lamenting his choice of doing lunch to Delinda, and she admits it. She agrees. And she says that something will have to change. They'll just raise the prices and change the wardrobe of the waitresses.
We will raise our dinner prices and change our waitress outfits.
Delinda, the outfits, the lunch, these are not matters for a chef of stardom to concern.
Tiffany, could you come here, please? Thank you.
A tuxedo?
It's body paint. Gunther.
Yeah, this is a very good idea.
I think so too.
Are those buttons?
That may be the second. That's close. To me, it's either are those buttons or old folks fornicating. To me, that's the second best line of the entire episode. Are those buttons? That's tremendous. Yes, it's clearly body paint. You can see that on all incarnations of the show, which is how they're able to get away with it, with that long tracking shot on the person that's doing it. Now, I'm sure there are logistical issues with employees wearing body paint who have to do multiple shifts, you know what I mean? I'm sure there's an issue. I don't know how you would do that on a regular basis, even for a short period of time. I'm sure there has to be some way to do it. People in theater do it all the time. But how you would translate that with waitresses in a Las Vegas setting, and I'm sure and this has probably been done in other restaurants or whatever, but there you have it. And as we move on from there, we see Ed and meeting with Miss Wells again in the park one more time. She comes in with her muscle. This time Ed is there first, and they go over certain details. Monica is asking if Ed is going to meet with the deal again, and Ed says that he called in some favors and ended some of her deals that she had going on. They've already been approved. I guess they're unapproved. Don't kid yourself, Mr. DeLine. You don't scare me. Is that a new experience for you? That co-op that you were about to close on in New York, that too has been unapproved. Apparently the board of directors had a change of heart. I mean, go figure. And you'll be receiving a letter from Briarcliff Country Club. That would be tomorrow. I think they're going to ask for your resignation.
I called Malaysia, and that deal that you were working on, it's not going to happen. Oh, and the two projects in Taiwan and South Africa, I'm afraid they're dead.
They've already been approved.
I guess they've been unapproved.
Don't kid yourself, Mr. DeLine. You don't scare me. Is that a new experience for you?
That co-op that you're about to close on in New York, that too has been unapproved. Apparently the board of directors, they had a change of heart. I mean, go figure. And you'll be receiving a letter from Briarcliff Country Club. That'll be tomorrow. I think they're going to ask for your resignation.
There is or was a Briarcliff Country Club that does exist. Founded in 1922 as Briarcliff Country Club, it later operated as Briar Hills Country Club and Briar Hall Golf and Country Club. It was then purchased in 1996 by Donald Trump and is now known as the Trump National Golf Club Westchester. So the club does exist.
Oh, hell. You know what? I'm not even sure that your credit cards are any good anymore.
I'll see you in court.
You got 1 hour.
And Monica walks away, but as she does, we flash to Danny being booked in Las Vegas for the complaint. And as we do, on the screen, we get a little bit of information about our boy Danny that's being plugged in here. First off, we get an address for him. That address does not exist. It's a fake address. The zip code is real, but the address itself, 1908 Westlake Drive, is a fake address. According to this, Danny is 6'2", 170 pounds. That's probably right. He doesn't have a whole lot of packed muscle on him, so that's probably right, 170. He apparently, according to this, has no middle name. It's just Danny McCoy. According to this, we all know that he's got middle names now. Come on, I've been saying them this whole time, and there's nothing I'm saying here that's false. He's got middle names, for crying out loud. They have him as brown hair, blue eyes, his complexion is tan. Okay, sure. As they're booking him in, they ask for his left hand, but on the screen, it says that they're getting fingerprinted of his right hand. So that's a discrepancy there, but we do get a birth date. According to this screen, Danny's birth date is July 21st, 1977, which at the time of this airing would put Danny at 27 years old and would also put his senior year at 1995. Keep that in mind. Now, Josh Duhamel's real birth year is 1972, and Nikki Cox's is 1978. So that's not even like right in the middle. That's closer to Nikki Cox's age, and I think they probably moved it a little bit closer to that. So according to this, Danny is 5 years younger than Josh Duhamel. So that's interesting. So we get a little bit of history here. We get a little bit of Danny's background in the background as you're watching this. The small details that you pick up. But again, where's that line up with what I was talking about? I think it does sort of semi-line up with it. If senior year was 95, then we talk about the time that Danny was away, and Mary talking about what happened when Danny was away. Santana's comeback was after 95, was started in 97-ish. So Danny, he could have definitely been gone off to the military by that point if he left in like 96 or the beginning of 97. Pieces of the puzzle coming together here as we watch this stuff. As we see Danny finishing up getting booked, we see Ed meeting up with Kathy in the hallway. Danny's finished up, and they're talking about what the situation is. Danny says he does need a lawyer now. But as he does, the detective working the case comes out and says that Monica Wells dropped the suit. She's not going to testify. It's over. So Kathy and the detective go in to clear up the paperwork, and Ed and Danny take off in Ed's Aston Martin. This also makes me wonder how Danny got there. Did he go with Kathy and not bring his car, maybe? Because he may or may not have known if he was going to be booked in as opposed to ROR. That might have been it, because Kathy does mention to Ed that he'll probably be released on RR, so his car is probably not there. He probably got a ride there with Kathy to go. So this explains why he would get a ride with Ed here, actually. So as they walk out, Danny asks Ed about exactly how he got out, if there was Ed pulling some strings that just happened to take place.
What did you do? Ed? What did you do?
Ever hear of deniability? If you're anywhere near this thing, she'll accuse you of blackmail, obstruction of justice.
Well, she could accuse you, too.
Nah. Look, I get away with people. They find me extremely likable.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So we whoosh back into the casino, and as we do, we come across Mr. Stinson again, who's playing some blackjack and seems to be winning. He's got 20 as he's getting dealt a hand, and he is extraordinarily happy, according to Sam, ecstatic.
How are the Sokals? Yeah, I know they're happy about their sex event. I don't want to hear anymore.
Well, I can't see him complaining about getting bumped from a $99 a night internet special to a $10,000 a night mansion.
The Stinsons got upgraded from a $162.95 per night room, okay, to a $16,460.06 per night room. This is, in today's money, not counting all the hidden robbery fees that Las Vegas charges you nowadays. And Sam then looks at Mike in a certain way.
You ever try those?
What?
Those.
The one Sokol's taking?
I know you don't need them. I'm just saying sometimes young guys take them for fun.
A 4-hour erection is fun?
Yes. Sounds fun to me.
Listen, I haven't mentioned it much in the last few episodes, but we have seen a couple of exchanges with Mike and Sam that, again, I think fueled the Sam-Mike shipper community. I think it did fuel a lot of that, the interactions that they had back and forth. And this isn't one that is dying down those flames anytime soon. Ed and Danny come back into the casino, though, and they show that everything's fine to Sam and Mike. I'm not sure how much Sam knows about the Danny situation, but Ed and Danny, as they're walking back in, they see a line outside for Mystique, which shouldn't be anything out of the ordinary, if we're being perfectly honest. Mystique is a big nightclub. We've seen lines in there before. It's nighttime. There should be lines in there. But Ed is curious about what's going on in Mystique right now. As Ed and Danny come in, we hear production music on all incarnations. It's the same production music all the way through. It is packed in Mystique now, and Ed finally sees the waitresses with the body paint tuxedos on, and Ed asks one of the waitresses to come over and just to get a little information. The waitress that he asked to come over, you might recognize this waitress. Her name is Kendra Wilkinson. Kendra Wilkinson was one of Hef's girlfriends in the reality show Girls Next Door, which premiered in August of this year, 2005. Before that, she became one of Hef's girlfriends after she was a painted girl at his birthday party in 2004. So, a little tie-in here. Also, her picture was also seen on the fax machine at Playboy Mansion, and Hef said, I want her to be my girlfriend, one of my girlfriends, and she was, and that led to that. She then married a football player and is now a real estate agent, but yeah, super recognized. I was like, that's Kendra. I know who that is. That's the girl next door. That is the girl next door, who was a painted girl, and now she's a painted girl here as well. The early 2000s were a hell of a time. And she comes over, and Ed just looks at her shirt, or her painted top, as does Danny. And he says that he's just checking. Now, to be fair to Kendra, her initial walk over was slightly less than ladylike. I don't know if the heels were getting to her, or how she had to walk over is slightly less than ladylike, but it was definitely interesting once the walkover started. And Danny is enjoying the scenery around him.
I do like a double-breasted tuxedo.
Put some clothes on those girls right now.
Daddy, it's body paint. They're more covered
This
than...
is not a debate. Put clothes on the girls.
Okay.
Now, this has to be something Ed just is thinking about here at the Montecito. Because remember, he was talking to his cousin Donnie at the not flapjack place, at the pancake place, the fully topless pancake place, and said that it's not really a big deal here, where apparently it's a big deal to Ed in the Montecito, I suppose. Apparently it's probably something in the Montecito.
I think it's a good idea.
Me too.
So Danny walks over as he's about to get a beer, and he sees the girl from the first part of the episode again, the other night, Lisa. She apparently applied for a job and is now a waitress there.
Thought maybe later on, we could maybe...
Hey.
Hi.
You remember me?
Talking to her.
Yes.
Put this on now.
So as Delinda is handing out t-shirts to the waitresses, and as Danny was walking over to Lisa, I don't know if you heard, but there's a background guy. I guess they ADR'd his voice in there to kind of give this more of a meaning, but it's just a guy who was sitting there talking with the topless to Lisa there, and we don't hear him actually talk. This is all ADR, but this is all going to play in later as Danny is sitting there trying to talk to her, as Delinda is handing out t-shirts.
Thanks, buddy.
I just want to apologize for the... Look, here, let me, you know what, here, why don't you go ahead and just wipe before it's smeared. I don't.
And Danny grabs the t-shirt that Delinda put on there and tries to wipe off the beer. I'm sure that's not that big a deal with the beer and the paint. Like, I'm sure it's relatively easy to kind of dry off. Like, it's fine. Like, it's fine, Danny. You don't have to be a bumbling idiot when it comes to that. But the guy they are trying to make it seem like the guy bumped into Danny intentionally for interrupting his conversation with the waitress. And he should never hitting on somebody at work while they're at work is not the best play, generally speaking, unless you're a superstar, because the ratio of success is extraordinarily low. But the crowd is starting to get restless.
Danny, tell them to stop.
No, I'm off duty.
Danny, do something.
So we book in the episode with essentially the same thing that happened at the beginning part of the episode. Danny's off duty. He's drinking at the Montecito. He's talking to Lisa. He's being dragged into a circumstance by Delinda that he, being off duty, doesn't want to take part in. Mistake. Didn't we just go through this, Danny? At this point, even if you're don't grab a beer. Maybe you shouldn't. You should try to leave. You should try to leave. But yeah, all these different events that bookend. This time is not necessarily a good bookend. Danny should have learned his lesson and not been in the same environment that we were in. And also, again, we do come back to the timing issue. Why didn't we go to surveillance and see the footage and see how much time it lapsed and put the pieces together? Also, again, watching it in 2025, you do get a different feel for it, regardless of which side of that kind of issue that you're on. Just the general discourse about what's going on or what has happened in the last, say, 5 to 10 years with cases like these, he said, she said, very famous he said, she said cases, makes you look at it a certain way, some of the actions of the members of the Las Vegas Cat. Now, again, we know that Danny didn't do anything wrong in this episode, so them coming to defend him makes more sense and is more rooted in something than hearsay. I am generally of the discourse of the opinion that when it comes to hearsay and he says, she says, you do still have to err on the side of innocent until proven guilty. I usually think that way. You have to err on the side of more innocent until proven guilty. A lot of other people don't. A lot of people err on the side of guilty until proven innocent, which is possibly just as bad as erring on the side of innocent until proven guilty and someone is innocent. Like, I'm of the mindset that the innocence has to be paramount for anything to work. And so this episode is a little funky in that way. And it's a little funky in Ed's makeup. It's a little funky and we don't see a lot of Mary. We don't see a lot of Nessa. It's a little funky in a couple of different areas. Do I rank it as low as 7.7? Do I rank it as high? I already said I don't rank it as high as 4.5 for sure. Do I rank it at 7.7? I don't even know that I necessarily rank it that high. I would say there are things that help it along. And again, the Gunther storyline helps it along. The Sokol's storyline helps it along. I think the B and C stories are, in my opinion, stronger, better thought out than the A story with Danny, honestly. As much as I like Alicia Coppola, I think the B and C storylines are better thought out, better written. And so I would probably say on that and on the strength of Gunther, I would probably give this episode a solid 7 out of 10. A solid 7 out of 10. The A story is a lot of story. I would probably give it a solid 7 out of 10, though. I'm going a little lower than IMDb, I think, on this one. There are parts of it I like, again, but they're the B stories. They're the B stories, the B and the C. They're not enough of the story to bring it further along to me than a 7 out of 10. My opinion doesn't matter. Your opinion is the one that matters. I need you to tell me what you think about this episode and all the incarnations of the places that you're watching or listening to this episode. You can support the Podecito. We appreciate your support. We love your support by sharing. Sharing is caring. Sharing with as many people as you can. Retweets, reposts, all that stuff. That is the best way to help the Podecito along especially if you're not monetarily inclined to do so. If you are monetarily inclined to do so, the best way to help it along is still Patreon right now, just because you have more options for the type of membership that you can get and the new bonuses that come with that. The Podecito poker chip and Podecito poker chip set, I want to make sure I'm clear on that. It's not Montecito. They're not from the show Las Vegas. They're custom made Podecito podcast poker chips and poker chip sets that come with different levels of support that you can help with. Ko-Fi is another great place. We got that set up. We've got the Buy Me a Coffee set up as well. Monetarily, if you can help with those, that would be fantastic, especially now. We need that support more than ever, and we appreciate you in doing so. The next episode is Whale of a Time. We get Nessa and Linda battling it out for the advances of a whale. We get Noah Tishby guest starring, who is very excellent in the roles that she plays. And we also get Jay Moore. Oh boy. Oh boy. Anyway, that we'll discuss the episode. We'll try to keep it as much to the episode as possible, because we're here now. Where next week I'm gonna have to discuss how I feel about Jay Moore on the show. Wasn't looking forward to this, but here we are. Anyway, that's next week. This week, I appreciate you joining me on the podcast. Thank you for joining me. Remember, until next time, please take care.